Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Abundance Podcast. I'll be your host, AJ Pavelsk, and today we're going to be covering a very interesting thing. This podcast is about self-sustaining gardening, basically how to, set up your garden so that you'll have something year round. And the reason you want to do this is that the fruits and vegetables in the stores are covered with, first of all, usually tasteless, and they're covered with all sorts of chemicals to stop them from rotting. They're lower in nutrition than ones grown in your own backyard. So I'm going to get right to it. Also, they're cheaper. So thank you for coming to the Abundance Podcast. This is for patriots and Christians alike who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. And as I said earlier, I'm AJ Pavelsk, and today we'll be diving into a project that I believe is just pure gold, and especially in the Panhandle of Florida because of the climate here. It's very conducive to year-round, vegetable and fruit production. And so what I like to do is cover some easy ways to go about doing that. What I like to do is set it up so I can have, and all my followers you can create a near continuous year-round fruit harvest. And that one of a few places in the world you can do this. Of course, you can do it in southern Alabama, Louisiana, southeastern Georgia, also in the desert Southwest and Southern California. So this can be done year-round there also. So we all know the grocery vegetables and fruits are tasteless and covered in chemicals, and they lack nutrition. Let's take a walk into responsibility and self-reliance. If food gets short and for example, it's not in a grocery store, what are you going to do about it? And the answer is to have your own. So it's so much fun, self-reliance, and you step outside, you can pick your own fruit and come back in the house and no chemicals on it, and it's delicious. Not to mention that it's cheaper. I mean, it's much cheaper to do it that way. So that's right. I'm walking, I'm talking about walking right outside into your yard in February, May, even October, and picking something fresh, juicy, delicious, something that you really want to eat. Not a store-bought apple. Those things are almost flavorless, or a store-bought, even the store-bought citrus. It's not very good. I mean, it's just not. This is about orchestrating a sort of a symbiotic symphony of fruit, trees, bushes, and perennials that perform year-round. And that's what you want. You don't want to have to say in February, well, it's, I have to go and get some strawberries from the supermarket. I don't know I know what's on strawberries. I used to be a produce manager. So if you knew, you wouldn't buy them. Unless it's 100% organic without any chemicals on it. And I don't think you can find that. They might claim they are, but if you test them, they're not that way. So what is our goal here? To have the shortest possible gap between production cycles of your particular fruit trees, your bushes, or your nut trees, or whatever you're growing, so that you're never really out of food. Even in an emergency, if you're out of money, say the government shuts your check off, or you're laid off because the government shut down, at least you'll have food. You might not have protein, but we can address that later. But at this time, we're just going to have fresh fruit, which will give you plenty of vitamins, and especially vitamin C, to stop you from coming down with things like scurvy and having your teeth fall out. So this is the way to go. First of all, what you want to do is to have the shortest possible time, as I said. And for example, the last thing in the year that will produce are kumquats, and the first thing is strawberries. And kumquats are usually done in February, and strawberries can start producing in January. So you're not going to really have if managed properly, you're not going to have any time that you don't have any fruit. And that would be absolutely perfect. The benefit is it's not just food, it's the satisfaction of knowing that you've done it and you can go outside and get it whenever you want. And eventually, within 4 years or so, you'll start having extra food. And if you're the giving type, then you can start giving it to your friends or people in need. And it's going to cost you nothing other than effort. And it'll be far better for those people than buying it in the store. So purchasing it in a store and then giving it away to the needy is nowhere near as beneficial to them as giving them something you grew in the backyard. So, it's also satisfying in mastering your environment, having your backyard used for something other than mowing the grass. I mean, if all you have in your backyard is a few trees and you get to mow the grass, it's sort of a waste of land. Unless you have kids playing back there, then I can understand. But kids love playing in the fruit trees. Trust me. I know that for a fact. So let's get started with a strategy. How do we build this edible paradise, this continuum feeding forest? How can we do this? Let's start with our winter warriors, the ones that, because usually in winter everything is dead. You receive nothing. Everything in the supermarkets from South America, or some of it sometimes is from California, the valley over there that's so tremendously hot. But it's all shipped in or trucked in. And when they ship and truck in these vegetables and fruits, they spray them with a myriad of chemicals to stop them from rotting. And I know this because I was produce manager, and they had the signs on it saying it's been fumigated with this antifungal, this antibacterial, this antiviral, this anti-mite, anti-insect. You can't believe there's probably 5 or 6 sprays they put on this stuff. And unless you're washing this stuff, it has a peel. You can peel it, and you can get rid of some of that. But most of it penetrates the peel. And when it penetrates the peel, it gets inside the fruit, and you can't get rid of it. You're going to eat it, and there's nothing you can do about that. So what you want to do is, grow your own. So in winter, the first thing, let's start with the winter warriors. Like in most gardens, December through February is pretty quiet. Everything is dead. There's some citrus that will grow during that time and survive through it. We have Satsuma mandarins. There's also a sugar bell that will grow under those conditions, and several other citrus that will grow in northern Florida and Pensacola area, and hardiness zone 9A and 9B that will support and tolerate the temperatures down to 15 degrees. And I've been here a while, and we had a terrible winter last year. We had a week that was below freezing, and we had a foot of snow. That's absolutely crazy. But my Satsumas didn't care. It's like nothing happened to them. And my Satsuma produced again this year. Didn't even damage it. It did hurt a couple of my. I had a couple of, Valencias. It hurt them a little bit, burned them, and they came back, and but they didn't produce anywhere near as much oranges as they normally do. But Valencias are not for this area. They're more for Central Florida. I just grew it for fun because I love the taste of Valencias. So the best thing you want to go for citrus is the Satsuma is generally recognized as the most cold hardy. It is Owari and Brown Select. Both are excellent. You do not want to put them close together unless you like seeds. If they're not genetically identical, they will cross-pollinate and produce seeds. So if you're going to have two different Satsuma trees, and they're not genetically cloned, you don't want to put them next to each other because they will cross-pollinate unless you're on a breeding program and you want to breed your own Satsumas. But I prefer not to have 5 to 10 seeds in my citrus. So I will take the Satsumas, if they're different cultivars, and separate them. You might get 1 or 2 seeds accidentally because a bee might be wandering, all across your yard to pollinate the other tree, but that's rare. So Satsumas are great. Kumquats are very, very cold resistant also. Is Nagami, and I think this is Miwa. Those are very delicious. You eat the whole fruit. The outside is sweet and the inside is tangy, citrusy, and they're delicious. And also the Meyer lemon. These are all, they do fantastic over the winter. That's when they fruit. You'll have plenty. You can't eat in Meyer lemons. It tastes like a half orange because they're half Satsuma and half regular lemon. So they're delicious for juices and drinks, and you know, they're just fantastic. But if you're looking for a pure lemon, they generally don't want to grow here. They don't handle the cold well. I do have 2 lemon trees, and I have to cover them and put lights on them to keep them alive. But I don't suggest the average person who doesn't want to put in that much effort to grow lemons. Lemons are more for a warmer climate, like Central Florida. So right now, what we're looking at is you want satsumas, kumquats, and then you segue into strawberries, and you know, that is ideal. Some strawberries will start producing in January or late December, and that's what we get. That's our strawberry season here in Florida too, as we get the earliest strawberries of the year. Of that and blueberries, very early. Early strawberries and blueberries bring a lot of money. So if you're a farmer, that's what you want to do. As you know, so as winter fades, we get a spring explosion. Everything comes to life. You know, March through May, the garden comes alive. So you shouldn't have any problem producing all sorts of things at that time of the year. But specifically, you want to plant blueberries, and they require a very acidic soil and a lot of compost. They'll produce anywhere from 10 to 30 pounds per bush. I suggest rabbit eye in this climate. They live longer and a little bit bigger. Emerald and Jewel are excellent rabbit eye cultivars, and they use commercially down here in Florida and South Georgia and stuff. And they can, of course, at this time, loquats are also producing fruit. So if you plant a loquat with strawberries and blueberries, it just keeps going. And then, for example, I have a peach that ripens around the beginning of June, but there's also the Florida King peach, which brings you into spring, that has a classic summer flavor, but it produces its fruit in spring. So that is ideal to get, bridge the gap between the strawberries, blueberries, and summer. So Florida King is a good peach to go with. You can grow other peaches. You don't have to worry about cross-pollinating with peaches because they only produce one stone. They're all going to produce a stone anyways. So if you put 2 different peaches near each other, that is perfectly fine. They probably will produce more peaches that way. Now that it comes to summer, from June to August, we need plants that can handle the heat and humidity, and it's very intense down here. For example, most tomatoes we can't grow down here. The sunlight is too strong and the humidity is too high. They just don't pollinate properly, and and after a while, the extreme UV light weakens the plant and it dies from mold and stuff. So you'd have to shade your tomato plants here, and a lot of other annuals that you grow here. Cucumbers also, they have between the cucumber beetles and extreme sunlight, they don't like it too much. If you keep them covered with a little bit of shading, they do better. But as the summer comes along, June through August, what we need to plant, we need to plant across the handles heat, as you know, and humidity. This is prime time for figs. Figs are fantastic. They produce tons of fruit, especially after year 5 or so. There's Celeste, which is my favorite. There's a brown turkey. There's also, Louisiana purple, which is an excellent, it's designed specifically for this high humidity climate. Those are excellent. Figs are delicious when they're fresh. You can also dry them and make dried figs are also probably even more delicious. The fig trees are practically a requirement here. They grow so well that anybody who, a self-pollinating fig tree, if you don't have it, you're crazy. I mean, it just produces tons of food. even if you don't want them, you can just dry them and make them into fig Newtons or something, anything. I mean, and then all of a sudden, in late spring, early summer, the thornless blackberries, such as Arapaho, and I have several different types in my backyard. They produce gigantic blackberries, and they're delicious. Just remember not to put the acidic fertilizer that you put on the blueberries on your blackberries, because then the blackberries will be too sour. So do not drop the pH on a blackberry too much. You want to keep it around 7. There's also the native plants that grow so well. I have some of these just growing in the woods in our backyard here. It's the muscadine grapes. You don't want to just go out in the woods and get the ones growing there. They don't produce large enough grapes to be useful. They're mostly seeds. But you can use them to make wine and things like that if you wish. They're better than nothing. But they have cultivars specifically that grow well in Florida here, and that's Carlos and Noble. And they're great for making wine or just making jellies or grape juice, whatever you want to. They're very sweet. There's also a low chill pear that grows here, which will bridge the gap. It's called Florida Home, not Florida, Florida Home. It gives a classic, pear flavor, and I love pears. And they come about midsummer. And finally, this fall, and this is my favorite time of year for a lot of fruits. The fall finale, which is September to November, the garden gives us one of the last incredible bursts of flavor. And this is persimmons. There's astringent persimmons and non-astringent persimmons. And the non-astringent persimmons you can eat at any time, just about. The astringent ones have a very short period in which you can eat them. But they are the most delicious fruit you've ever had. They're well worth growing. And they have a variety. They just have so many varieties that are delicious. And so I'd grow one of each. I'd grow a non-astringent and astringent, but you have to put a net over them, because they're so delicious. The animals will come from 400 miles around to eat them. They're just absolutely, even more so than figs. I mean, you cannot keep like the squirrels and stuff out of it, so you'll have to put a net over them. That is one downside I want to mention. I have cats, and these cats don't like squirrels, or they like them. I don't know how to say it, but they love the squirrels. So the squirrels are not around here. So I'm very fortunate. But, just think about it. I mean, we can start from the beginning. And if you think about first thing in the spring, you can have just, you have things like this blueberry. A blueberry plant like this, when it's mature, a rabbit eye will produce anywhere from 10 to 30 pounds of blueberries per plant. Organic blueberries go from $5 to $10 a pound. So you think about that. I mean, we're talking $300 produced on one blueberry plant, and you should have 3 to 5 of those. Then you'll have more blueberries than you need, and you can freeze some of them for the winter if you need to. You can make blueberry pie out of them, blueberry jam and jelly. It's delicious. And also in the summer, late fall and winter, this is one of my favorite oranges. And this is the Hamlin. This is also a very good orange for North Florida. It handles the cold. It's down to 15 degrees. It doesn't really get down to 15 degrees more than a couple of minutes here. It doesn't stay there. So the tree will survive and produce every year. And it's some of these, like another one is Sugar Bell. It's citrus greening resistant. We don't have citrus greening up here, but if I've gotten stuff from nurseries that had citrus greening in it, and I had to throw it out. But this, it doesn't happen naturally up here, because we do get hard freezes, and those bugs cannot survive that. So in essence, you just want to do what you can to produce as much fruit as you can year round. And that would make sense. Now, there's no guarantees to success. It's just the basics. I assume that you know how to, if you're going to plant a food forest, you know the basics about taking care of trees. They require full sun, good drainage. Most of them don't like wet feet, so you have to plant them up, mound them up a little bit. You want to mend the soil, especially here in Florida, because it's sandy loam, and loam is it's mostly sandy. The loam isn't really there. You want to add plenty of organic matter, and I even put crushed granite and a little bit of clay in the soil. You don't want to put too much because it could get baked hard, but the clay and the ground rock gives plenty of minerals, because there's no minerals left in the silica soil here. It just really isn't. So you have to add them, and plenty of compost. You mount up the compost about the bottoms, and you make sure you have an organic fertilizer in it if you need it. And I just create my own compost every year. First timing is everything. You want to plant the deciduous trees like the peaches, the ones that lose their leaves, and the pears in the dead of winter, when they're basically asleep, and in January and February, and when they're dormant. But the plants, others like evergreens and citrus, you want to plant in the spring so that they can get their roots established before it gets too dry in the summer. That's the only thing that you'll have to worry about. And don't let them sit in a place that water collects, because they can get root rot. You want to mound them up and plant them slightly above the soil, and put compost over the top of them to keep the moisture in there, but do not overwater them. And if you have to, that's why you want to mound them up. If you have too much water, then you don't want them sitting in the water. So just be careful where you plant them. And like I said, don't plant some of the citrus really close together if they're not genetically identical. Second, lean on your local resources. The nurseries, especially the local university, especially the University of Florida. They have come up with so many wonderful cultivars of citrus, peaches, tomatoes, you name it. They know what grows here. They know the diseases here. And so they can recommend what type of, what particular cultivar of each individual plant you want to grow. I'm not giving you the complete source of everything you can grow here. There's many types of citrus you can grow that will survive the climate up here, along with the other, the persimmons and the grapes and so on. There's even some better grapes than the ones I've mentioned, but they're rarer and hard to find. Finally, you need to embrace the challenge. It's part of the fun. You're going to have some setbacks. You might even have a tree die on you. That occasionally happens, especially if it's a poor graft. You'll know when it's a poor graft because they'll start sprouting up the branches below the graft and growing like crazy, and the top of the tree won't grow very well. At that point, you can cut the tree off and regraft it if you want, but you're not going to get much out of that plant. And that's happened to me before. So here's the challenge. Start with some plants. And you want to start with 4 plants for each season if you want to just start with something simple. For example, satsumas for the winter, blueberry for the spring, figs for the summer, and persimmons for the fall. And then you'd have pretty good coverage right there. And then you can expand to 8 or 10 different trees and bushes. And that's where you want to go. And as a general rule, because you can see these blueberries, and this is actually Grok's rendering of my gardening, because I asked them to do it. And we'll see. It's not exactly accurate, but that's about how you want to do it. That's taking up a lot of room, of course. That's like 1/3 of an acre with tons of plants. You can see there's blueberries and all sorts of things going on there. But that is, of course, Grok's rendering. It's not the actual thing. But I just like to say that's what you should do, and it's up to you. It's a little bit of work, not a lot, but by year 2 or 3, you'll have more fruit than you can ever deal with. I know some people, I don't want to deal with the fruit. Give it away to your friends. Get off your cell phone, get off the computer, give this fruit to your friends. They'll appreciate it. They'll never have fruit this good ever in their lives again, probably. Make friends that way. Give it to a homeless person. Give it to your church or whatever. You'll have plenty of fruit. And And then you have to work out the rest of your nutrition, where you're going to get a source of protein, where you're going to get vegetables. And that's what I'd like to cover next. So that's it for tonight. And thank you for stopping by. Give a like and subscribe. I'll be following up on this, showing how I planted them, what exactly. I'll cover how to plant each vegetable and each fruit tree and each bush. And it's very important where you put them in the garden so they don't shade each other or, like I said, have negative impacts on the fruit quality. And I'll cover all of that later. And that's it for tonight, folks. Thank you for like and subscribe and leave a comment. I'll appreciate it. Good night.